Who wouldn't want to be a cool vampire riding bikes with a mullet in the 80s?
Hey, this is Unrefined Podcast. I'm Brandon Spain, your host, with co-host Lindsy Waters. Welcome to another episode. Hey, everybody. We are excited to be here with you. We are doing something new, something we're going to try to start doing at least once a month. Maybe more, I don't know, but a program or a show called reWatchingYou. And in this show, we're going to start watching 80s, 90s movies, and or any kind of movie, honestly, or TV shows or different things, and just kind of look at the predictive programming, the symbolism, all that kind of stuff that are in the shows, and just kind of have a great conversation and talk about what we see, and particularly in the great purveyor of our culture, which is the media. So just want to introduce everybody. My awesome co-host, Lindsy.
Hey.
And my awesome 20-year-old son, who is very perceptive in things of culture. So here's Nathan.
Hello.
Hello. Yes. He has his dark voice on. Anyway, so we're just going to hang out tonight, you guys. This is not like going to be a formal podcast like we generally do, but if you guessed from the graphic from the podcast, we watched The Lost Boys. Who directed that? Anybody? Any of y'all know? Is it a famous director that directed The Lost Boys?
Joel Schumacher.
Joel Schumacher. What else has he directed? I have no idea.
Man, those two terrible last movies of the Batman, the 90s Batman franchise.
The ones with Arnold Schwarzenegger and...
he did the Batman Robin?
Yeah, Batman Forever, and then Batman and Robin.
Oh, yeah.
But he also did St. Elmo's Fire. He did...
Which is good.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a connection I'm going to bring up later, I think. Besides the funny one. The greatest enigma of all. Why did Sam have a poster of Rob Lowe on his wall? Sorry. Anyway, yeah. But yeah,
we all know we all had a secret fantasy for Rob Lowe in the 80s.
I didn't.
Of course you didn't. Child of my loins. You
Yeah.
Yes, but
I was not born.
Yeah, you were not born. That is correct. So, all right. So, what did we? What just popped out this movie? I mean, we were watching it, and it's of the vampire genre, but I think there's a lot of other things going on in this movie other than vampirism. But we can start with there. Lindsay and Nathan and I have kind of talked a little bit about. We compared it to other genres, and I think the first question I want to ask all of us is, what was like the other vampire genres in this movie? What part of the mythos of vampirism is incorporated into this show, this movie? Just the obvious ones.
Well, they had the avoiding daylight thing, at least for the full-on vampires, and I guess a little bit for the half vampires.
Yeah.
Or they always slept.
Yeah.
You know what I found interesting?
Always need to rest.
Yeah. Well, during the day. And even the other full vampires, they were way back in the dark, in the cave. And of course, there's spoilers. If you've never seen Lost Boys, don't listen to this. Don't listen to this podcast, please. Just turn it off, go watch it, and come back and listen to it. Anyway, but David and the boys, so to speak, were all in the back. I find it interesting that they hung the whole bat mythos Is it Mythos or Mythos? I don't know. Anyway, Mythos.
Mythos.
Is it? Okay.
I don't care.
It could really be pronounced however you want to pronounce it. I really don't think it matters.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. But yeah, they hung like bats in the back, and then their kills were more flying bat type, like reminiscent of the angel / demon in Midnight Mass.
I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
That's true.
I wonder if they had wings when they did these attacks, or if they just flew like Superman and just had claws. I don't know.
Trying to remember if they actually show them flying. I thought they did, and I don't remember seeing wings, but I could be wrong.
They do. There is that one really weird scene where right after Michael, like I think it's the day after Michael becomes a half vampire, they fly around their house with their bikes.
Oh, yeah, that's scene? Right. That's right. Yeah.
So it could be that they just float. I'd imagine. I don't think it'd look really cool flying around with wings.
Yeah.
So I assume they just float. I don't think they ever showed a scene with them flying. They did show a couple of them jumping.
Yeah. Though. Yeah, I think they did. It'd be when you said that, I had the image of Meatloaf's album "Bat Out of Hell," with a motorcycle with wings coming out of it. But yeah, I don't think they flew around with wings. I think they floated like Superman and came in for their kills. Any other commonalities of the mythos of vampirism?
Obviously, blood. That is a huge
and holy water affected them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it all comes back to blood.
Which I don't remember. In Midnight Mass, was there ever a moment where they used holy water in that show?
I don't think
they used fire. I remember that.
I don't
think they ever used holy water.
I don't think they used holy water either, which is really weird because it's based in the Catholic faith, and holy water is, you always have it. I mean, when I used to pray with a friend of mine at a Catholic church, there was always holy water in the dispenser right by the
right. Because that's where the kids got it in Lost Boys. They got it out of the Catholic Church.
It was so funny, them just pulling up during the mass or whatever that was, and like a baptism or something.
Baptism of the baby, yeah.
And filling up their canteens out of the font or the thing at the doorway.
Yeah, the font.
Yeah.
Well, that's what holy water is. A lot of non-liturgical people out there might not get that, but holy water is not just water for vampires. Holy water is what the Catholics, use in the church for exorcism. They use it for blessing things, and all it is the blessed water from before baptism.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they baptize an infant or a person or an adult, which they do baptize adults sometimes, the water that's left over is blessed. It's either disposed out on the ground to be poured back into nature, or it's kept in a font or kept some sort of a way because it's actually blessed. Because Catholics believe in a different form of grace conveyed when they bless things like transubstantiation and communion and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's what holy water is. It's basically baptism water.
Mm.
And that's where the old expression "don't throw the baby out with the bathwater" came from. So,
never heard that expression.
Yeah,
ever.
You've never heard that? Oh, son, your Gen Z is showing. We need to. We got a caveat.
I don't think that's a term.
So, what was the most exciting part of this film? We have some comic relief that we talk about in a few minutes, but what was the most exciting part of the film to you guys?
I guess the true villain reveal has always been for me that,
at the end,
finding out who the real head vampire
was.
probably the most exciting moment for me was probably when Bill got murdered, honestly, because he did not fit in with the others.
Yeah, it was hard to take him seriously in that movie.
It really was. I mean, Kiefer's haircut was enough.
His name wasn't Bill, by the way. To our studio audience, or not studio audience, to our audience, it's a guy that played Bill in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. He played one of the nominal vampire parts. That
his name was Marco in the movie. It's Alex Winter is the actor's
Marco.
name.
Oh, okay. So we have our movie trivia guy on here. He can tell us just about anything, which is really awesome. So
No, I'm looking at the cast right now.
he has Google at his fingertips too. Yeah. So I just remember this movie. It stirred up a lot of nostalgia because back when I was a kid, and rewatching it now as someone who's almost 50, it just didn't have it was very lackluster. But when I was a kid back in the 80s, man, I thought it was, number one, Star was hot. I mean, you're a teenage kid,
Candy Girl,
and and the second thing is, you always wanted to be a Corey. I mean, when I was a kid, they were just like, the girls loved them, so you always wanted to be one of the Coreys, and the girls seemed to flock more towards Corey Haim than Corey Feldman, but they were, after this movie kind of put them together. I think they were in another one before this. I don't know, but this is the cementing movie of their relationship where they were almost inseparable, and they starred in a bunch of other movies. But there's tons of symbolism in this movie. So who wants to start with what they saw that jumped out at them, that kind of predictive programming, now that we're like 30 years removed from this movie? Are we about 30 years, 40 years,
87? Let's see, about 30, 35. Yeah, I mean it. I'm 40, so
yeah. So
well, I guess.
So what did y'all think about go ahead.
Well, I just thought about, just the title, The Lost Boys. I mean, where do you obviously get that from? Peter Pan.
Peter Pan, yeah.
Peter Pan is about this sort of Pied Piper-ish character who apparently was a lot more sinister in the books. The J.M. Barrie, I guess, and killed off some of the Lost Boys at various times to keep them from getting older. But anyway, regardless, he was just kind of this, when you really think about it, it's not really cool. He's this kid who flies into people's houses and convinces them to run away from home.
Murdering these other kids.
Is he a fairy or a fae?
No.
Okay.
But he was associated with fairies.
So yeah, because Tinkerbell, what was his backstory? How did he obtain that immortality of staying a child?
Oh, well, I mean, you just go to Never Neverland, is my understanding of it. He got flown there by a bird or something, I think, in the books. And yeah.
Went in a place where they played, and there was it was like Neverland, sort of.
They kept them youthful.
Yeah.
Yeah. The place, the area kept them youthful.
Well, wow, that's really interesting. You're bringing this out. Like, think about this. Okay, Michael Jackson, Neverland. Okay, and he always tried to keep himself youthful, right? Okay, but then think about the comparison. Take Peter Pan and that story and put it over the movie. They were in Santa Clara, and there was Carla, and there was an amusement park is where they dominated. It was very kid through the whole show. I mean, the kids were the heroes. The kids were the
right,
and
they had a small boy with them.
Yeah,
as well.
And exactly. And who was Peter Pan? The video store guy, the head vampire. Yeah,
David was.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I guess
you think it's going to be Kiefer, but he's it ends up being the Max character.
Yeah. And he kept them all eternally youthful.
Which is also
Yeah.
Y'all go ahead.
The connection to today kind of is we live in a time where kids are being encouraged to literally block, like on a chemical hormonal level, block maturity, puberty.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, now obviously there's no gender connections in this movie or to my knowledge the Peter Pan story, but still I couldn't help but think about that. And beyond that, just people in general are kind of really being encouraged to, the Gen Z and us millennials too. There's been this sort of, delaying adulthood thing that you see that's become prevalent. And yeah, I couldn't help but think about that when I thought about the whole Peter Pan connection here. And then there's of course, Pan, ever since, the last couple of years, but really going back to watching the Guillermo del Toro movie, Pan's Labyrinth, and, the creepy part at the beginning where it talks about the girl and, she was the daughter of the king of the underworld, and then enter this girl who encounters Pan, the Greek sort of satyr god, where we get the term panic. He's a really bad guy if you read into his mythology. So yeah, Peter Pan is connected to Pan, and Pan, of course, is connected to Satan. Any way you look at it.
What's the relation between Pan and Bacchus? Is there a connection between
the god of wine?
Yeah, was he a goat god too, Bacchus?
I don't think so. No, he wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, god of pleasure and wine.
Okay.
I'm sure they were connected. The Roman version, Bacchus is just the Roman version of.
Yeah, he's just like a party.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a connection with Pan there somewhere.
Right. Which is a goat person.
Well, that enters something that I saw there, the whole Doors connection, but the doors of Aldous Huxley,
Right.
the doors of perception. But but Jim
Morrison.
Morrison, he considered himself a Dionysian, and part of the whole Dionysian doctrine is interesting enough. Sandy, my wife, and I, we were just watching a show that was it's a fiction show, but it's based on, I guess, I don't know, historical type fiction. They just interviewed Manson, and Manson runs along the same whole motif of the Lost Boys. He had a family, and he took kids that were thrown out, neglected, whatever, brainwashed them, and he had his family. And something I never realized until I watched this show is that Manson was so short.
Yeah.
But yet he wielded so much power, and I see that kind of motif there in Lost Boys, because we all know there's theories out there that Manson was a CIA patsy, CIA asset and stuff, and there's actually some pretty good proof for it, but we won't go there in our We're Watching You episode 1. But I think that's really fascinating, the whole Doors thing, because that picture of Jim Morrison on the wall comes up quite a bit. You see it quite a bit, and then even the Doors music that's Echo and the Bunnymen, but it's still Doors music that is a part of the primary music of the soundtrack.
Yeah,
right. And the one they kept using was "People Are Strange."
Yeah. Not Break On Through or Riders on the Storm, but People Are Strange, which has a very carnival feel to it. I mean, if you look at the album cover, it has people like looking out of doors. Yep.
Circus freaks.
Yep, exactly. So there's a whole theme of carnival there too. And that I think that whole amusement park was crucial. Had some kind of symbolism in the movie. because it seemed to all center around that
Mm-hmm.
more than just where the kids hung out.
Yeah.
It could really just be. I mean, obviously, the movie itself has some form of tie to the idea of transhumanism itself, because I mean, who doesn't, look at the situation that Michael's in? Obviously, as the situation that Michael was in, who wouldn't, fall under peer pressure and become a vampire to be cool? I mean, obviously, not knowing he was going to end up that way, but still, people, of the younger age are going to see these choices and make them either in the moment, like Michael did, or obviously his choice, as possibly David did, or any of the other guys, because they enjoyed it.
Yeah.
They enjoyed everything they did as vampires, including Star as well.
Yeah. Well, and don't forget Michael. It's about the girl too. This is a romantic thing too, so you have to throw that in there. Kinda, yeah. I think that was the primary purpose of his. But I mean, who doesn't want to live forever? We just
right. That's the whole point.
I mean,
who wouldn't want to be a cool vampire?
Right.
Riding bikes with a mullet
in the 80s with E.T. Oh, that's another movie. Anyway, so, but yeah, it was the bikes. A lot of Stranger Things feelings, vibes there. I really, since after watching Stranger Things, I feel the whole, how they incorporated so many Easter eggs to different. I think that's the word to use. Easter eggs to different nods to different 80s movies and in Stranger Things. But so how do you think this compares to other vampire movies? I mean, is this really a movie about vampires, or is it a movie about something else?
Well, that's a good question, because before I had even watched the movie, I didn't know what it was about. I had no idea what it was about. The cover of the movie itself doesn't really tell you what it's really about until you watch the movie. So I'd say probably not, although I couldn't put my finger on what exactly this movie's about, besides being a possible, show don't tell.
Yeah.
Or, protesting what's to come, or just nitpicking things that are in the future as predictive programming involving a younger generation and an older generation that rules. There could be a multitude of things.
Yeah, the irony of it is a lot of the stars that are in it are now boomers. A lot of the stars are, well, I'm sure the grandpa's dead, but some of the other are the old people now, like Max, and I mean, even some of the actors are they're Gen Z, but they're not. They're quite a few years older than me. The Coreys are about 5 or 6 years. Well, one of them passed away, but I think Corey Feldman's about 5 or 6 years older than me. So, anyway, there's that generational thing. What are you going to say, Lindsay? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just think the Peter Pan sort of Pied Piper thing is important. I think the movie is a lot more about that. Just this longing for family, and just longing for even just community and belonging, and bad people coming in and offering that to you versus other more wholesome people offering it to you.
That's a good point.
You see both of that.
Yeah. What did you say, Nay?
I said that's true, because that's all that Max wanted in the end.
A family,
a larger family,
a mom for my boys.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is real fascinating. But let's go back to the Pied Piper thing. I mean, okay, a Pied Piper, the mythos of he piped all the children out of the town, right? Mm-hmm. And then back what I was talking about. I was talking about Manson, which that was his stomping grounds back in the 60s and 70s. That whole valley area. Okay, and he was in Laurel Canyon and Santa Monica. All this area is just one big town. I mean, if you've been out there, you understand. You can't tell where one stops and one starts, and where LA ends, and but you have that. But then the Piper aspect, Pan. What is Pan known for?
Yeah,
You know,
he plays the pipes and
he plays the
deceives
pipes.
And, yeah.
Yep. So there's that motif running through there. The whole, I guess, myth of the enemy type person taking away your children. You know, that taking away the youth of the country, of the area.
Yeah.
That has been a fear of parents for years. It's interesting where that comes from, and that played out. That kind of fit very well over Lost Boys. And there's another. I don't know if it's a movie or a documentary, but aren't there another group of Lost Boys somewhere over in Asia or Africa?
Well,
they
it was
did
the
something
name.
about it.
In Sudan, there was this generation of boys who were just kind of orphans, had no families, and just wandered by themselves because of all the unrest there. They had some there were some Sudanese Lost Boys in Yazoo at one time, because I remember some of them were kind of sponsored by different churches, but Trinity Episcopal sponsored it. I know at least one of them for a little while. I can't remember his name. He used to come to a ministry I volunteered at back then, the Way Cafe. But yeah, I think that's the other place where I'm familiar with that term, is the Sudanese Lost Boys.
Yeah, me too. It's interesting that they use that terminology, orphanesque, lost in.
So here's that Rob Lowe connection. I know we joked about his poster, and Schumacher had directed another movie with him in it, St. Elmo's Fire. And obviously this isn't St. Elmo's Fire, but Rob Lowe's character in St. Elmo's Fire was kind of a lost boy. He was like peaked in college and trying to find himself and getting into trouble, got into a bad marriage and had a kid, and was trying to get back to those college years, but also wanted to come to maturity and couldn't, and didn't feel like he belonged.
Yeah.
He's almost sort of the lost boy. Or one of them. I mean, you could probably argue that everyone in that movie were lost boys and girls too, but yeah, especially Rob Lowe's character in St. Elmo's Fire is sort of a.
Well, was the same. Now, did that have Demi Moore in it? St. Elmo's Fire? Was she in?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bunch of little yuppie types.
Yeah, I get it confused with Less Than Zero sometimes.
Yeah,
I get that movie confused with Less Than Zero, because that's similar. Of course, it had Iron Man in it, whatever his name is. I can't think of his name right now.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, and but St. Elmo's Fire, did it have the same girl that was in Lost Boys in it too?
No, I don't think Jamie Gertz
okay.
was in there.
Okay, what else was she in?
She was in Crossroads, and she was in Less Than Zero. That's what you're talking about.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right. I wondered why she looked so familiar.
Yep.
Her Andrew McCarthy, who was also in St. Elmo's Fire, was also in Less Than Zero. So there's another
that's
connection there.
Well, they were all called. I told Nathan they're the Brat Pack. Yep. Trying to mimic the 50s, 40s Rat Pack, which was Jerry Lewis and Sammy Davis Jr., all those guys. Yeah. Yep. So they were the Brat Pack, but there was a ton of them. I was telling Nathan about them a few months ago. There was just, and they were all super popular. And
Yep.
Rob Lowe was one of them, wasn't he?
Rob Lowe was one of them.
I think some people were kind of included sometimes, and there wasn't total agreement about who it was. All of them.
Yeah, some of them younger, like the Coreys. I mean, it's kind of sketchy whether they were really, because they were so young during
Yeah.
then. It was more the older ones, even and then there was arguments about whether the outsiders, a lot of those guys were in it or not,
Yeah.
because they were older than
Well, yeah,
these
Patrick
dudes.
Swayze was
So,
a good bit older than.
yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting connection with Rob Lou's character, and you see his poster on the wall there.
Yeah.
It's just an unprecedented poster to have in a young boy's room.
Yeah.
Dude, Sam.
Yeah.
I guess he just really liked.
But
Rob
I
Lowe.
bet you many people didn't notice it, probably, except for us. That's what's so crazy, because we were just sitting there trying to pick it apart. All right, so let's.
Well, not many people would probably question why he would have a Rob Lowe poster
Well,
in his
not
room.
in today's age. Anyway, so the big symbolism here, and this goes in and plays in with Midnight Mass that we watched, which that might be a movie we might need to watch again. Well, it's not a movie; it's a big, huge, long series movie. Is the whole concept, and I'd never heard of this until Midnight Mass, and then again in Lost Boys, because obviously I had heard of it, but I didn't think about it. Is the whole concept of you have to drink a vampire's blood to get halfway there. Now, is that part of the vampire mythos? I mean, it's like a Eucharistic type ritual.
That one was new for me.
Not usually.
I thought the vampire just bit you and then drank your blood.
Yeah, me too. What about you, Nathan?
Well, that's how it's always usually been played off as, is almost like an infection in most forms of media. But Midnight Mass and Lost Boys both have that in common, and I'm trying to think. There is another one that where you have to change by drinking the blood. There have been multiple games I can think of where that's been the case.
Interview with the Vampire. It's been years since I've seen that, and I didn't even see the whole thing. I don't think.
Yeah, the Vampire Lestat. She just died not too long ago.
Yeah,
I've never seen that movie.
Books.
Who?
Yeah, she. No, what's interesting about the whole thing is and I saw this similar in Midnight Mass is when they drank the blood, the Eucharistic blood, so to speak, the blood of the vampire. They started to crave, and you heard their heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. The same type imagery was used in both that show and in Lost Boys for the craving of other blood. And you remember in Midnight Mass, they were walking. Some of the people were walking around at the end, like his parents were. They were fighting down the craving and acting halfway normal, even though they had it. Whereas a lot of people were all acting on the craving, and you saw that too with Star, and she said how it wears you down, beginning to the point where you want to drink the blood. But see, all that is that goes back to the even this is questionable, but this is the kind of podcast we are, to even the real vampire type story, the real cryptid, the real vampires. That involves, I think, drinking of the blood of the vampire before the bite or before the kill or whatever. So yeah, I find it interesting because they didn't do the bite on the neck thing till the very end with their mother.
Mm-hmm.
Max was about to bite her on the neck. Makes you wonder if that would have turned her fully into a vampire, or if the attack was still needed.
Yeah, and he was a head vampire, so the rules were different for him. Maybe he.
Yeah, what was it?
Well, then again, whose blood was that then that Michael drank out?
That's a good question. Do they collect their own blood occasionally for that purpose? They don't really tell you.
Yeah, and it seems like their purpose was conquest, but not like the whole let's take over. But then I started thinking about the whole. This is just me being too super logical. I thought about this later on that night. The whole pyramid scheme. I mean, the head vampire had to have had someone who had turned him. So there's never really it's like kind of like the whole conundrum with the Pope. Who's over the Pope? Well, yeah, the bishop. Who's over the bishop? The Pope. Who's over the Pope? Well, God. It just like the whole hierarchical form of that anyway, I was thinking too much, being overthinking about it. It's just a movie, but we have to remember that it is just a movie, and there's inconsistencies in there and stuff. But overall, this is just to me, it's just a real cult classic movie. I mean, it's everybody I know loves it. I'm sure there's people out there that don't like it. I talk about it online. I have this funny meme that I actually posted today on Facebook to get people ready.
The whole worms and maggots, Chinese food.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole Chinese food, I think. And what was that power? What was that? I have never seen. He had the power like 11 to make some, not 11, the other girl, the Asian girl that was with 11, to make people see what they fear.
Yep.
What was that power? That's new.
Vampires have always been shown to have manipulation, by
it's usually more like people. Mesmerism and hypnosis kind of power.
Yeah, I remember Bela Lugosi back then. The old Dracula back a long time ago. He would look at the women and he would look at them with those eyes, and they would fall smitten to him and come to him. Because he was like definitely not a good looking dude. So, mesmerism. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think that, but yeah, we need to include the fact that vampires probably practice magic, obviously.
Just that there could be a variation of species of different types, and all over the world. I remember watching a documentary about certain species. It was all fake found footage films, and it would show Marines, military people entering caves and finding giant bat women with obviously the facial features of a woman, and the rest is just a body of a bat. And it's all and the idea of these creatures are spread across the world. It's real hard to find a common denominator where all these points of similar creatures connect. Like there's a single entity where they've all branched from.
I wonder what kind of cryptid that would be called. A woman bat. I guess a vampire.
Don't. They weren't called vampires. No, I don't remember exactly what they were called. Yeah. It was I believe an Asian myth. Asian or Middle Eastern myth of a bat-like woman. I don't remember what it was called.
That's fascinating. A cryptid that included that.
Oh, it's a really strange name. It's called I can't pronounce that.
Share it on the screen.
Look it up on that real quick.
I've definitely known some old bats before.
Yeah, I wonder why bats are chosen as far as the mythos of vampires. Why not owls or some falcons or something? But they're always bats.
It's a mythical creature in the Philippines. Menengal. It is winged women.
Winged women, bat women with bat wings. It looks like they have
bat women.
It looks like you can tell they're women, at least on the upper part. So I'm not trying to be vulgar, but
some not safe for work pictures of them here.
Yeah, that's fascinating though. Say it again. What are we calling it? Menengal. Interesting cryptid.
It's a Filipino myth.
Fascinating. Yeah, I guess the bats are chosen for the whole vampire mythos because of the nocturnalness of them, right? I mean, they come out at night.
And then there's that one species that does drink blood. I mean,
yeah, vampire bat. Yeah. In the whole aspects of caves, There's just there's a thing about caves and cryptids too. I mean, look in Midnight Mass. Once again, he found the demon / angel in a cave, locked away. The Kandahar giant was in a cave. Giants in caves, and anyway, I just find that interesting.
Yeah. Well, I guess back to the whole him manipulating reality, making him see things that aren't there. I mean, isn't that the world we live in? Don't believe what your eyes are seeing. That's what the media tells you in so many words.
And two, I mean, well, here's a big one too, Lindsay. By piggybacking off of what you just said, look, if it involves changing your blood, whatever it is, don't do it. Yeah. I mean, it's not natural. It's not right. Our stomachs are made to not even be able to handle too much blood. I mean, if you drink too much blood, you vomit. I don't know how a lot of these people do it. They don't drink a lot of it, is what it is. But you know, internal bleeding. People, if they have an internal, I'm not trying to get too graphic, but they have some sort of a ulcer or something like that, a bleeding ulcer stuff. I mean, they vomit the blood out because the blood, you know, is the stomach can't digest blood, which is fascinating. And then the whole admonition in the Bible.
Yeah, blood is like this sacred cleansing thing, but it also makes you unclean if you touch it in the wrong way, and especially under the old covenant. So it's like that paradox.
Yeah, that's what I was about to. I was about to go into. It's life is in the blood. The admonition, the new covenant in the Book of Acts. The Gentiles could do anything basically except eat, you know, the blood of an animal.
Blood and fat, and I never understood the fat thing, but yeah,
it's good for you. Yeah, I never understood that either. Was that Old Testament or was that New Testament as well?
Well, it was more Old Testament, but part of it was the fat was just part of the offering. I mean, it was supposed to be purely
the best
offering. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's why it wasn't that it was bad for you. It was that it's the best part of the meat. If you eat an animal that's fat, that means you're living in a life of plenty. What the Bible says about the midnight mass angel. Yeah. Another fascinating predictive programming movie TV show. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you getting a taste of Midnight Mass. You might like it, you might not. But Lost Boys was fun. We had a good time watching it. And yeah. You know, there is one thing though, you guys. Is there anything else you guys had to say or want to bring out about this show?
Real quick,
or you want to wrap it up?
The theme song, "Cry Little Sister" by Gerard McMahon. You know, he wrote it. He didn't see the movie yet, but he wrote it for the movie based on the script.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I thought this was interesting. First couple lines: "Last fire will rise behind those eyes. Black house will rock. Blind boys don't lie." The Black House. I don't know if Gerard McMahon. I don't believe anyone when they say my song's about this because they tell people different things, and I think songwriters like to mess with people and just keep people guessing. But
yeah,
Black House. I mean, that used to be the headquarters and where else but San Francisco of LaVey's Church of Satan was called the Black House. I think it's still there. It was a literal black house, painted solid black. So I'm wondering if there's not some connection there. Maybe not. I don't know Gerard McMahon. I don't know his background. Again, it's hard to interpret song lyrics, but I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, song lyrics. Yeah, we were talking about that this evening. We were talking about 70s music, and I was telling the boys how
Cry Little Sister is the name of the song.
Cry Little Sister, yeah. How Jackie Blue is you hear it, but some people thought it was about drugs, and some people don't. Anyway, so yeah, songwriters They do that on purpose, that because it's about mystery.
Yeah.
That's the main difference between. But even with God, there's mystery. But that's the main difference between somebody with a more biblical worldview versus a non-biblical worldview is God wants to make mysteries plain. He wants to reveal knowledge and not have secret knowledge to have over people. But the world, knowledge is power. And that's the acquirement through all these different occult groups and organizations is knowledge. And even with vampires, I mean, I seem to remember, I don't know if I'm right about this, is there something about knowing the vampire's name that had some kind of power over him, or is that just demons?
I don't remember that one. But that made me think about something we neglected, the whole you have to invite me in thing.
Yes.
That was an important
that's
part of the vampire lore in this movie. You don't really see
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, though, because David and the boys, they weren't ever invited in, but they just burst in. They came in through the chimney, which was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But it could have been that they had legal rights to come in because Max was let in by Michael, through the threshold,
Yeah.
which goes back to the importance of the whole concept in the Bible. There's a threshold covenant. There's a threshold. When they did the death angel came during Egypt during the plague, you had to do the entire door. You just didn't do the left and right side and the top. You did the threshold, the bottom as well. To predict against the angel of death. The only thing I think I really have left to say is Santa Clara is a great place if it wasn't for all those dang vampires. Thanks for listening and supporting us. And remember, stay naturally supernatural.